Hey, it's Ron and Danny. We're here to tell you that we're taking the rest of the month off. Now, of course, that might not seem like a very big deal for people who stream twice a month as a team. But Danny has something interesting. She's going to be doing something interesting, and I'm going to be doing something interesting. You go first.
Well, I am flying out to South Korea, but I am starting a second channel where I will be doing much shorter clips and it will be legally wild. You guys cannot wait to see it. I'm very excited to provide said entertainment for you. However, because I will be in South Korea and because I will be streaming from there, it's very difficult to coordinate schedules to stream together and to actually facilitate the stream that we do with the Transcontinental.
As anyone who's ever worked with Andrew Esquire can attest, that is one part of the world that is really hard. I mean, of course, in the world of people who stay up all night, like my friend, Joe Neerman, but then it goes, there are two guys whose names should not be mentioned in the same sentence, actually. Now that I think about it. Danny, I have this tendency to be able to retain friendships with an incredible number of people who can't stand each other. And let's leave it at that. Wait a minute. But this, you had not told me about this new channel. Can you hint any more about it than you?
I am accepting submissions and recommendations for naming said channel, but it will be excellent. It will be a lot of fun. It's going to be more lifestyle blog.
Okay.
From the perspective of an attorney, because I am so tired of people saying, is that legal? Wait, is that legal? And so it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be doing some crazy things, paragliding, shooting off cannons in the middle of the desert, the regular stuff.
the regular stuff for generating views on YouTube.
Correct. Except the question is always going to be, wait, is that legal? And I will go through the legality of the insane things that we do together.
You see,
it'll be a lot of fun.
So people have so much imagination, and I would never think of that. But the point is, so when are you leaving?
So I'm leaving on Sunday, this Sunday. So I will be gone on Sunday, but you guys I won't miss a beat. I'll be streaming the Sarah Boone trial. I'll be doing a recap of it every single night. My time, your time, obviously, will be probably in the morning or afternoon.
And as for me, I wasn't really up for the stream tonight, and Danny wanted to stream tonight, and I was in kind of a crappy mood, which just actually lifted a little bit before. But also hanging out with Danny does lighten my mood. She's such a fun gal. But then I said no, but let's not. It's not a good look for me to stream, and I'll tell you why. Domestically speaking, we're heading in. So we had Rosh Hashanah, Jewish stuff now. We had Rosh Hashanah a week ago. This Saturday is Yom Kippur. And then we get hit with what a Mormon might call the Feast of Tabernacles. Sukkot, as we say it in the Ashkenazi pronunciation. It's an 8-day long or 7-day long holiday, which is bracketed by 2 days and then a kind of a middle section, and then two days that are like Shabbos type days. Right. And if you know me by now, Shabbos, those are days when Ron is off the grid. So basically, starting next week, I've only got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then the next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And there's going to be a lot of people at our house because all my children and grandchildren will be coming, or they'll be phased to some extent. But if I do a 2-hour stream, I just don't think my lovely and talented wife is going to appreciate it, because she doesn't really get the social benefit that I'm bestowing on the world by doing this, and that someday it's going to make us very rich and provide for our retirement. She hasn't realized that yet. So I said to Danny, maybe I need to take October off. And she said, well, actually that might not be bad for me either, because guess what? I'm going to another hemisphere. That's wild. So we're both going to be in different places, so to speak. But I said, but we owe it to the easily dozens of people who are anxiously awaiting our regular gig. I said, why don't we just put together a little something? Now, you were streaming a very short time ago, right? On one of your same trial.
Yeah, Sarah Boone decided not to take a plea deal, although if I were her attorney, I would strongly advise that she does. I'm sure her attorney did. But Sarah Boone can't accept responsibility for anything in life, and that would require that she do so. So naturally, she rejected the plea deal, and we are going to trial, baby. I cannot wait. I'm so excited.
How many states have cameras in court at this point? Do you know?
I'm not entirely sure. I know it's the majority of states now.
Because
So
it's none of the states where I practice, which I'm grateful for. I think it's I understand the argument for cameras in court. There's something to it, the transparency. Um, but I think it distorts. People start performing for an audience. When you watch trials in TV dramas, the courtroom is always full. There are all these people watching and all these reactions. And folks, that's not usually how it goes. Now, in a criminal court where there's just a lot of traffic, you might very well have more people just kind of milling around. But as a general rule, most trials are not attended by anyone except the people who are actually involved, to the extent to which I've had judges send someone back, like back in the day when showing up in a courthouse, but pre-Zoom days was a more common part of our work. I would like to get to court early. First of all, you want to get to court early. As someone who's been to court late a few times, it's really good to get to court early. But also, I would go in, see where there's a trial going on, and sit down and see how it's done, see how other lawyers do it. Learn a thing or two, and if it's my judge that I'm going to be in front of later that day, I'll see a kind of mood he or she is in. But I've had a judge send a bailiff into the gallery where I'm sitting, saying, "Who are you?" I'm a member of the public. Damn it! Actually, they might have been concerned that I was perhaps a witness who should have been sequestered. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt for that. But I do think my point being that when you're on TV, and especially now that there's law streaming going on, so you don't have to fight for network attention to potentially have thousands of people watching you do your stuff, which is mostly boring. And most people, even the best lawyers. I mean, now that Danny, you stream so many cases, your viewers know that most action sequences are a very small percentage of the time spent in court. And even the best lawyers, even the ones who are really the best means two things, right? Best prepared and best spoken. Some people are very well prepared, but they're going to put you to sleep no matter what because they just ain't got it. And then there are people who are really good on their feet, but if they're not prepared, it's not going to be entertaining watching them because they're fumfering around. And okay, but even the very best ones is a lot of fumfering around. There's a lot of time. There's a lot of downtime. So, but nonetheless, from this you make a living.
From this, I make a living, and even if I weren't, I would still be in favor of a camera in every courtroom. And the reason why, not every courtroom, I take that back, a camera access and video access in every jurisdiction, not every courtroom. Domestic matters should not be televised.
Fair enough. Okay.
In any jurisdiction. Anything involving children and minors needs to appropriately conform to the rules dealing with children and minors. One of the things that is upsetting is in cases that involve minors, when people are testifying, they use first names rather than using, their initials to refer to minors in the case. And then that obviously doxes them online. And so I see some utility to saying, all right, we need to be very careful about live streaming. I also
Oh,
see the utility in going away from or moving away from live streaming to recorded and published cases, not only for the purposes of not using minors' names, not doxing individuals like we saw in the case down in New Mexico. Help me with the name.
oh, I'm not
Uh,
that guy. I
uh, the armorer in the Rust shooting trial.
oh, okay.
So in her case, one of the experts read out the phone number on the screen. So the entire world then had access to the phone
Oh
number of
gosh.
one of the witnesses. So obviously that poses certain
Gutierrez
problems.
Reed?
Pardon?
Hannah Gutierrez Reed?
Hannah Gutierrez Reed. That's right. Thank you, Hannah. So in Hannah's case, that happened. There's also some issues with live streaming where, and this we saw in the Chad Daybell trial, where one of the witnesses watched his wife testify on YouTube without realizing that that also was a no go and that that was not permitted. So in order to avoid those concerns, I could see well, and not only that, but also to avoid safety, right? Whether that's the Chauvin trial, whether that's the Murdoch trial, safety of the witnesses in my mind is paramount. And sometimes when you have a mob outside or protesters outside or supporters outside and they're watching the trial live as it's going on, they can be pushed to anger very quickly. And a very peaceful group of protesters can become very aggressive. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean anyone's going to be violent or anything of the sort, but I could see people getting very inflamed. And we saw in the certain J.E.'s trial of his mistress slash co-conspirator, Ms. Ghislaine Maxwell, because she was in that jurisdiction and because they kept not only did they not publicize the case, but because they kept the public audience very limited, there wasn't there weren't riots in the street, which I think were very warranted. But that's my personal opinion. So
Riots were warranted, you're saying?
yes,
Well,
yes.
how can you, as an officer of the court, ever suggest that such disturbances, such threats to the peace could ever be warranted?
Well,
What's the benefit?
The real Danielle would never suggest that. The
Oh,
personality online, Danny,
oh, in
of
other words,
course.
Danny on direct.
Yeah, Danny on direct might
That
say some crazy
Ms.
things.
Direct.
No, I'm just saying no, of course riots aren't warranted, but protests certainly are. And I think that in that case they were warranted and necessary. The reason that I see the value of cameras in each jurisdiction is in cases like why are names escaping me tonight?
Because you're thinking already of your trip.
That's
You're
probably what it
distracted.
is. That's probably what it is. I'm
You can
thinking
rationalize anything, folks.
Uh, shooting not too long ago, BLM protesters, young man. Binger was the name of the prosecutor. Why is the name of the defendant escaping me?
Oh, you
Kyle
mean
Rittenhouse.
Rittenhouse?
Call Kyle Rittenhouse.
Oh well, okay.
They are
That was my only real streaming. That and Johnny Depp was when I
Johnny
fell into.
Depp's another one. Look at how Johnny Depp and Kyle Rittenhouse's cases were being covered in the public by the media, the people who we trust to actually attend these cases and provide their actual legal analysis and trial coverage. How opposed I am to the misinformation that was spread by mass media outlets, I can't overstate it. It was disgusting, it was disturbing, and I think when people actually saw the trial for themselves, saw it live, were able to actually watch some of the odd behavior of the prosecutors, some things that led them to ask questions about the system and the process, and to say, huh, wait a second. Can I trust that I'm going to be getting a fair trial if I were in the defendant's shoes? Maybe what counts as beyond a reasonable doubt and that standard has shifted and changed because of the introduction of cameras in the courtroom and specifically because of live streaming because nothing escapes the attention of the people who watch these live streams. We have been able to catch a lot of misrepresentations that were made to the court, a lot of oddities that were presented that sleuths, internet sleuths, who were completely unrelated to the case in the trial, were able to observe through a live stream and alert the court to.
This is
So
fascinating. I mean, it strikes me as analogous in some ways to the recognition in sports of just how bad officiating is.
mhm.
Now that we have the technology to, yes, there's been sports on TV for generations now, but now we really have the technology to see just how insane, to illustrate strike zones and all the stuff that that officials are missing. But that sounds like a great law review article. If anyone,
I would think so. If I were still in law school, I would definitely draft one. The other thing to consider as well is, you know, judges' demeanor. So think about the judges that you argue in front of. Imagine how their demeanor might change for the better if they had 1,000 eyes watching them or 100,000 eyes watching them all at one time. There are certainly cases that I can think of off the top of my head where I would pray that I never have to argue in front of that judge because either A, that judge doesn't pay attention while they're in court, while the trial is ongoing, or B, the judge has an incurable sense of their own divinity. Like they truly think they are gods. And
or
so
they just don't. They're just dumb. They're just awful.
that's true too. That absolutely happens.
I mean,
Um, I mean,
yeah,
look at the YSL trial, for example. I think that the appropriate mechanism to rooting out the corruption of that judge and of that courtroom was to have everyone be able to see the judge hold an attorney in contempt for the attorney calling out the judge for the judge's misconduct.
that was
And then to
unbelievable.
see the judge lose his temper and yell and just his very performance is something that everyone should see. He should be ashamed. He should be embarrassed. And a little bar, bar reckoning at the back of the monthly bar newsletter that goes out to all the attorneys, the little magazine, that's not sufficient, in my opinion. In my opinion, the court of public opinion does matter. And the legitimacy of the court is always at stake. It is the only thing that they have to drive themselves forward. And so, from a public policy perspective, not only is it the right of the defendant to have a public trial, in my opinion, it's the right of the people to have public access to a trial.
What an entirely appropriate way for us to end our little Valentine to our scores of faithful viewers. We will see you guys on the other side as we head into the colder part of the autumn. And we thank you very much for watching us today. Please make sure you're subscribed to both of us. And catch you later. Have a great time. And have a great trip, Danny. Stay in touch.
Thank you, Ron.
Bye.
Bye bye.